Okay, so I get asked a lot about my camera equipment, and this is about 75–80% of it here. So I'm just going to go through them almost on a one-by-one basis. So let's start with the failure, which is the Nikon. Now, I've been a long-term Nikon fan. When I used to do photography, my first camera was a D40 or D50. It was one of the first kind of budget DSLRs, and it was fantastic. And it got me into photography, and I missed it a lot. So when I came back to the UK in 2012, about a year or two later, I had enough money and I bought a D5300. And that's when I started to take off on YouTube, and that camera did 1080p. However, the video quality was very disappointing, and I couldn't understand why, because Nikon photos are amazing. So I just kind of assumed that, you know, a Nikon, let's get that here. I just assumed that a Nikon camera would do fantastic video, and it just didn't. And I tried numerous lenses, including the 35mm here, which is an f1.8, and also the big bad boy, the Sigma 1020, which is f3.5, and I just couldn't get on with it. And I learnt that numerous people that reviewed these cameras said that the video quality is subpar. It also cropped the video. So even though I used a wide angle, even though it was at 10mm, I was getting like a 15mm image. So it was cropping the image at 1080p. And then again, the video quality was just rubbish. I mean, this iPhone does a better job with a tiny 1-inch sensor than this APS-C sensor in this camera. And that was on the 5300. So I sold the 5300 and I ended up buying this bad boy, which is the Nikon G80, or in America they call it G85. And I didn't get on with this very well at first, but I've slowly learned to love it. For video, it is amazing. It's got built-in, I think it's 5-axis stabilization inside the camera, so you technically don't need a gimbal as long as you hold it steady. And if you use a power iOS lens, which I have here, which is this one, it's a 1260, there it is. You have double stabilization, so you can literally run and gun and you will get rock steady footage with no software tweaking needed. It will do amazing stabilization. However, this is a micro 4/3, and the problem with micro 4/3 is, even though it says 12, it's actually 24, so it's not that wide. So I ended up putting a cheap magnification wide angle conversion, which turned it from a 12mm into basically a 9mm. But then it made the camera very heavy, and the lens very long, and it's quite a heavy camera anyway. So when I mounted it in the car, it would kind of shake a bit. And even though it's got double stabilization, it just wasn't enough. And also this is the kit lens that comes with the higher end G series Lumix cameras. So even though I had a good lens, it's only an f3.5, so in low light it was terrible. So in a car where you often have low light situations, the quality was never that great. So I really wasn't happy with the G80, and I kind of gave up on it. I ended up switching to the GoPro Session, which was actually pretty damn good. I don't have it here because I mounted it on the camera, but I have a GoPro Session, the newer one, that does 4K and 30 frames, and it has built-in stabilization, and that's a fantastic little camera. but still the quality's never going to match this. So I pretty much gave up on the Lumix, and I didn't use it for 6 months, and as you know, I disappeared off the internet for 6 months. And I gave up on this. I didn't have this lens, I only had this lens, the kit lens, and the cheap, tiny pancake lens, which is also a, come on, where are you? It's also a 12 to 32 zoom. Anyway, so I gave up on this camera, and then I heard that Nikon brought out a APS-C 4K camera, which is this, the D7500. And because I already had a couple of lenses for this, I was absolutely delighted. I thought, oh wow, this is going to be it, you know, 4K footage. I can reuse my beautiful 35mm lens and my wide angle lens. It's going to be amazing. And I should have done more research. It is a fantastic photo camera, but then again, so are the basic models. But for video, I'm going to be completely honest, for video, this sucks. I mean, it is embarrassing. In 1080p, yeah, it's fine, but when you put it in 4K, it crops by about 50%. By 50%. So you've already got an APS-C, so it's not a huge sensor, it's like a medium sensor, and then you're using only a tiny part, which is less than the micro four thirds. So not much light is getting into the sensor, and because it crops so much, you can't use this lens because it zooms in so much that well, it's useless. So you end up using, you know, the monster wide angle, which is the 1020, but you've only got f3.5, so not only is it terrible in low light, it's very heavy, there's no stabilization, so everything's kind of like shaky like this, and the quality, even when you're super steady and super careful, the quality is just rubbish. One of my videos, when I first had the E30 was getting wrapped, I actually used this lens and this camera, and you can see it for yourself. The quality is just abysmal. It was terrible. I thought there was something wrong with the settings, but no, it wasn't. It's the camera. It crops 50%. The f3.5, and because it crops, I think it reduces it even further than 3.5. It goes to like probably f5. It's just terrible. And so I was really, really upset, and I wasted a lot of money on this camera. And this is now the second time Nikon has disappointed me on video. I know that Canon are better for video, and I don't know, I should listen to what people were saying, but I didn't. It's my fault, my mistake, and a rather expensive one. So I was about to give up, but then I went back to this again. Now, Lumix or Panasonic brought out a new model of this called the G90 or G95, depending on where you are, and a lot of people are saying it's worse because it crops the 4K footage by about 20%, whereas this only does about 10 or 8%. So it uses a lot more of the sensor. So the video quality is very good, and a lot of people say that the video quality of this is as good as a GH5, and yeah, I agree, it pretty much is. I've seen the side by side. The depth of field, dynamic range, it's pretty much bang on. The problem, the mistake I made was the lenses. I was using kit lenses and they sucked. So what I did was, I bought this, which is the 12mm f1.4. And I've got to say, this completely transformed this camera. Honestly, it's amazing. You get beautiful bokeh. The f1.4 means it focuses super quick, and because it's a prime, it just goes bang, 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 bang. It just focuses just like that, you know, instantly. And everything is sharp and clear. The lens isn't too big. Olympus do same spec that's shorter, but it's only an f2, but it's a lot cheaper. But I went with the f1.4 for double the price, and yes, it's almost double the size, but I think it was worth it. And honestly, as you can see in my previous 2 or 3 videos, the quality is amazing. So I'm really happy. I'm not so happy that I wasted all my money on the Nikon stuff. One downside about this camera is the viewfinder and the screen. The screen is a low resolution, and the viewfinder, which is a bonus for Nikon, is digital, very low resolution. Whereas on that, it's optical, which is beautiful for photos, but then again, this is crap for photos anyway. So I bought this, which is a 7-inch full HD screen that supports 4K. It's got all the inputs there, and it takes a monster Sony battery, which I have, and you just literally just slide it in, and it's very light, and there's many ways to mount it, but anyway, I'm not going to show that now, it'll take too long. And I can see everything, you know, if it's in focus, if the depth of field's good, if dynamic range is good, I can see if the colors are good. I mean, I've set the screen up perfectly. And again, there's so many ways that you can adapt. There's also a hot shoe mount at the bottom here. The battery mount on the back is a Sony, and there's so many different models for this. And I use this one. Not the biggest one. It's the F970. There's one to do it's even bigger, but I mean, this is a big boy, and this lasts forever. So charge it very, very well, almost never. I don't think I've charged it yet. So yeah, it's really good. So that's what I use now for video. For audio, let's go back to here. For audio, I used to use the Rode Micro Go. It is a very good microphone. I remember when I was at Goodwood with some of the more popular, wealthier YouTubers that had all the expensive Rode mics, and we got into, I wouldn't say an argument, but the general consensus that this is actually as good, if not better, than the Rode mics that cost 10 times more. And if you go on YouTube, you can actually see where they tested this with all the different Rodes, and this was, you know, 90% as good as the Rode mics that cost ridiculous money. But I don't use this anymore. I now use, look at all this, crazy, isn't it? All the cables, USB-C, USB-A. I now use this. This is the new wireless Wireless Go? Yeah. Wireless Go. I've got the old wireless Rode, which was very good, but it was very big and required AA batteries for each one. It took a long time for it to find the other mic. So this just plugs in to the hot shoe right there. And I'm not going to do it now, but literally just plug it in there. You turn it on. This is the receiving end. You turn it on here. Okay, I need to tap the focus. There you go, you turn it on there. Within about 5 seconds, that's it, it's synced, it's done. And you just clip it wherever you want. You can clip it on the inside or on the outside, however you like it. And I've never had any problems. I've got this is the latest lights to come out from China. You get loads of different lights, but let me give you an example of how bright this is. Yeah. It's ridiculous. It uses the Canon battery, and it recharges it via USB-C, and it recharges very quickly too. So you don't need to buy a separate charger, and so it's a charger and light all in one. And this is the smallest one they make, and you don't need any more than that. And it's very small, it's very light, and I've put this on myself, this shoe mount, and you can adjust it to any angle you want. I have multiple gimbals. I never use them anymore. This was the first gimbal I ever bought. In fact, this is a first generation gimbal. So I'm surprised it still works. I haven't used it for a long time. It makes creaking noises. This is the latest and greatest. Forget who makes it, but at least it can do a full rotation. You can control it. Oh, there you go, Hohem. You can control it with this joystick, so you can always adjust it. It's got an extra mount there, so you can put a light on it, or in my case, I install this on my car window with a very strong suction mount. Now, why do I do that? So I can mount this bad boy. This is the best small action camera you can get. There's a lot of negatives to this camera. Focusing is the major one. But as long as you set up the focus the first time and press record, the image quality is amazing. Battery life's not so great, but it's got a live HDMI out. You can use a battery pack to keep it going forever. It's got a microphone output. You can adjust everything on the menu here. This screen, this is the new second version, so you can view, but you can't really view it. Oh, it just turned on. Let's turn that off. But here's something you probably don't know, and I'm going to show you now. So this is a Nikon battery, EL19. These are very, very cheap. Okay, you see that? Watch this. This is the original Sony battery, which costs 3 times as much as the Nikon. However, yeah, let's just see that, the Sony one? This costs 3 times as much as the Nikon. However, that's the Nikon, that's the Sony. Watch this. And I've tested this numerous times. Okay, I have been your guinea pig. Ta-da! Yep, it works. And it lasts just as long. So I bought a whole bunch of super cheap aftermarket Nikon batteries. These are all Lumix batteries. This is a battery grip extension for the Lumix. I never use it. These are all the cables that I use. That is my new drone. I haven't used it yet. All the external hard drives that I use. Tripod. But yeah, this is all my kit. But right now I'm using that. And yeah, I just thought you guys would like to see what I use. So there you go. Thanks guys, until next time. Bye bye.